This is The Conversation, and today we're talking about the basic question of our existence, but the most important one as well. That is, who are we? Why are we here? And how do we have a meaningful existence from henceforth? And in order to have an understanding towards this, we know that we are bombarded with so much information around. Some of it is quite basic as to the families that we are born with, the environment that we grow up in, and others that we draw from outside, such as the books that we read, the series that we watch, yes, you know, those ones that we like, yes. And today I am with Rendani to try and delve deeper into this conversation, so that we somewhat have a meaningful understanding of ourselves. Rendani, welcome to The Conversation.
Thank you very much.
It is such a pleasure to have you today with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So Rendani, let us delve into this conversation. Who are we and how do we get to an understanding of ourselves, perhaps even as individuals and perhaps even as a collective?
Well, that's a very deep and interesting question. In fact, these questions are considered to be the great philosophical questions. And the question of our own existence has been plaguing us as humans from the dawn of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have been trying to find out who we are. And I could say that the whole idea of religion, or most religion, evolved as an attempt to try and answer these great philosophical questions.
That's interesting.
And many people have suggested and have opined different ideas about who we are and what we are doing here on earth. It is as though we have a longing deep down inside us to find out exactly where we come from and what are we to do and where are we going. I think these questions haunt everyone. In fact, I think everyone, if they have matured enough, at least they should have come to a point in their life where they've really asked themselves these questions. Who am I?
Absolutely. And just stare up for a minute at night and be like, why am I even here?
You know, just looking up at the ceiling, you can imagine, just saying, who am I? Now, it's a very deep question, and then I think it begs for some transcendent experience, as it were. Not necessarily that it begs for a transcendent experience, but I think it is a type of question that would step out of the realm of the physical. It's a metaphysical question, in fact, as the philosophers would put it. How far can we take this back? I mean, let's take it back from René Descartes, the father of analytical geometry and the father of rational thinking.
You're talking about a philosopher now.
No, he's a philosopher. Now, Descartes was a devout Catholic, and he was raised by the Jesuits, and he opined that the only way we could find truth, or the only way to test truth, was by rational thinking, and hence he evolved a method of analytical thinking and a method of deductions. And I mean, he was challenging the existing view then, which was empiricism, which intimated that the only way to acquire truth is through sensual experience and experimentation. While he challenged that and said, well, reason is the only thing that I cannot doubt, because his method was that of doubt. In fact, he's known for that. He doubted everything, to a point where he even doubted his own existence. That maybe I'm not here. But then the fact that he was there doubting proved to him that he was there. So he said, therefore I think, therefore I am. The fact that I think, it means that I'm here.
Okay.
So he's
that's quite an interesting twist to it.
Yeah, it is a quite interesting twist, because they say the fact that the doubter exists means that the doubter is there. So hence he exalted reason above everything else, above sensual experience, above everything else. And that the existing view at Descartes' time was empiricism, which proposed that sensual experience is the only method of acquiring truth.
So in other words, for him to come to the actual truth of whatever he was investigating, he just had to be like, this is what my stimulus is, and this is how I feel, therefore this is the truth because I feel this way.
Exactly. I mean, in fact, it was said that reason is not so much the feelings. I think it is the empiricism which intimated the senses to say, if I can touch it, if I can see it, if I can feel it, therefore it exists. But Descartes says that if if it can be reasoned out analytically in his mathematical equation, which is put forth, then it is true.
Okay.
And Newton is the one that came and married these two views together, which is why Newton became very famous. In fact, he said that not only is sensual experience important or reason important alone, in fact, these two should be coupled together in an attempt to acquire the truth.
To inquire and acquire and reach to a conclusive truth, as it were.
So that's why Newton became very famous. I think what he did was monumental. In fact, it led to a great scientific discovery. And what most people don't realize, or at least what we didn't realize when we were being taught about these guys in high school, was that these guys were in some religious trip.
That is so true, because now you're bringing out some of these names. I'm like, no, I remember that from Newton's first law of physics. Like, what
the
is
three
this?
laws of physics, and then all we thought about was just to calculate the force and all that. But in fact, what Descartes suggested was that the metaphysic was the roots of physics, and then the branches. He compared the whole study to the tree, saying that the roots are the metaphysics, and the trunk of the tree is the physics, and the branches of the tree are all other sciences. So, which means at the basis of all other science, it's some deep spiritual investigation.
That blows my mind right now. That is absolutely interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because most people consider this man to be geniuses, but they don't realize that this man were in a very serious spiritual trip.
But then, wouldn't we say so then, when we perhaps don't only consider their spiritual affiliation, to say they actually dealt with some of the hard questions to try and get us an answer, or rather bring us to some understanding of sorts? As, for example, now we are bringing up their names when we are trying to find the meaningful of our existence, for
and
example.
of our life.
And of our life in general.
In fact, these great scientific discoveries were made as an attempt to try and understand existence as a whole. Not only existence of the self, but also existence of the world. What is the world? I mean, Newton came to the conclusion that the world is a gigantic cosmic machine that is governed by fixed, immutable laws, and God has set it into motion, which is why Newton was a renowned scientist, because he believed in God. Descartes also believed in God, but of course he had a different view of God from Newton. Anyway,
how so?
I would not want to consider that of too much interest, lest we take too much of a tangent from the subject which we are trying to investigate. But later on, after the Newtonian view was made popular, came the existentialists. And now the existentialists are very close to the questions which we are trying to answer, because they said, okay, fine. Well, you talk about experiments, thank you very much. You talk about reason, but I'm a person with feelings.
And I'm here right now, right
now. I am concerned about my existence. What do you say about that? This science of yours does not attempt to answer any of these questions. So now, where is the science that answers my own existence? Hence, they are called existentialists, because they were concerned about the nature of their experience. They were concerned about subjective experience. So they denounced the whole world of literature and tapped into the world of drama. So your life was more like a movie that can only be understood by you. As Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, said, I must find a truth that is true to me. A truth at which I must be willing to live or die. Some truth that is only true to me, and that's more like subjective experience. And remember, from the Newtonian worldview, subjective experience was casted out as tainted and marred by pre-existing ideas. So we cannot really find out exactly what truth is if we consider too much of our own personal experiences or subjective experience. Therefore, we must develop a method at which to test the truth. So we looked at the world as a world of objects where we are the subject. Hence comes the idea of subject and objective world, which was a byproduct or a species of rationalism and the Newtonian worldview. But the existentialists were denying that and saying that we must be concerned with human experience. We must try to be close to answering the quest of human existence. What does it mean to be human? And now comes home to the question that we're trying to answer. What does it mean that I'm Rendani, and does my experience matter?
Yeah.
Does my experience matter? Because, I mean, from an empirical point of view, it doesn't. There's an objective methodology which is set up to find out the truth. But what about my own experience?
Now, before we delved into this interesting existential view, when we go back to the Newtonian time,
yes,
because like you said, this is the guy that we have heard a lot about in physics and in other forms, that when you do perform experiments, you need to have an hypothesis and then come back and let your facts lead you to the conclusion that you're going to have.
Yes.
And when you speak of subjective and objective, this is basically what we've been talking about. Take the facts, let the facts lead you to an objective truth.
Yes.
Do not qualify the truth depending on the subjective view of what you have. That is perhaps, in this case, how you feel or how you perceive something.
Yes.
Let it be, these are the facts. Therefore, because I have these facts, I come to this conclusion, and it cannot be questioned because it's objective based on the facts.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and that's very true. But then that also leaves a gap. What about your own experience? What do you say of your own existence? Because
this is where the existentialism comes in.
What about yours? Because you are here now.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you have this methodology of which you claim to acquire the truth, but what about your own experience as an individual? And I think that comes really close to an attempt to answer the purpose of mankind. What is the purpose of mankind? So now the existentialist would say, well, you must cast away all firm and familiar and encompassing viewpoints which attempt to have all the answers to your own existence. And that is, you must cast away all religion and ideologies. And one religion which they felt that was more encompassing and firm and familiar than all other was Christianity. In fact, existentialists denied Christianity. Most of them were atheists. Like we talk about, who is this guy? He was a French philosopher. I forgot his name. But
we'll get him.
We'll get him. Actually, it's interesting that my wife actually read some of his pieces and never understood anything. He was a French philosopher known for a statement that existence precedes essence. You know, it was known before that essence actually precedes existence. Essence, which is a term which was coined by the Greeks. I think it was Aristotle, if not Socrates, that says that your being, there is something behind your being that causes you to exist, and that is your essence. And in the Greeks, that would be said to be the soul. Your soul is what causes your existence, so that is the essence. But the existentialist says no, your existence is what precedes the essence. So they twisted the way things around. Anyway, so
interesting.
Yeah, they rejected the encompassing the traditions and religion that tried to answer all the questions there is. They say, cast away everything and go out there and live your experience and discover the truth from the experiences which you will acquire from your life. And that was the philosophy. I must live as though I'm acting on a stage, and and while I'm acting, then the script will come. That it's more like that. Is the idea is something like that loosely. Yeah. So now, how far can we actually go with the existentialist view? Because, okay, we deny everything there is that is familiar.
Yes.
And we try to acquire our own experiences and our own truth. I think that the danger in existentialism, as much as I like their starting point, because they start by pulling down everything that is firm and familiar that everybody's doing. But the conclusion that I can find a unique truth that is only true to me, I think that is flawed, because there is no way that you can go out there in the world and find something that someone has not thought about.
This is quite interesting that you say this, because I feel like it's taking us back to the empirical point, way of getting to the truth.
Yes.
Where they denounce, or rather they say, we cannot get to the truth based on the subjective.
Yes.
Way of thinking or worldview.
Yes.
Rather, we need to come to a more undeniable factual
facts, exactly,
truth to say this is an objective truth.
Exactly. Yeah. So because if how do we know that your experience is the truth?
Because the next person is going to have a different experience.
And that's what they encourage. That then their doctrines is intimated in that you find a truth that is true to you. There are no universal, for instance, moral standards.
Therefore, in other words, there's no universal truth.
Yeah. Yes.
Or rather, there's no truth as we know the word truth to exist.
To exist, exactly. Everyone has their own truth. So, like I said, I like their starting point, but when it comes to that, it begs so many questions because there are facts and there are illusions and there are lies. So how would you know that you are living a life of a lie? Of course, that is not something that would exist in an existentialist mind, because then my truth is my truth.
And the next person's truth is their truth.
It's their own truth. It's their own movies, their own drama that they're acting out. So they're fine with that.
So in other words, they don't have a reference point. The existential view does not have a reference point to say that. Because we know generally when we speak of truth, we say this is the truth, or perhaps shall we say this is the absolute truth, and then we're trying to get to the absolute truth by rejecting all these other things that we can falsify until we get to a point that stands and it's somehow in line with the reference that we have.
With the reference that we have established. And existentialists don't have that. In fact, there is another philosophy which is nihilism, which is close to existentialism. So nihilism says there is no meaning and you cannot discover your own truth. Everything is useless. So that's nihilism. But existentialism says no, there is no meaning of life. You must find your own meaning in life. So now this is where it runs parallel to nihilism, except that it does not completely say that you are not capable of yourself to find meaning, like the nihilist would say. The nihilist says that there is no meaning, you cannot find meaning, everything is useless, live, drink and eat, for tomorrow you die, and life is useless. That's all there is. That's nihilism. But existentialism says there is no meaning to life. There is no Papa God out there that's watching upon you and has given you a purpose of life. There is no such thing. Quit dreaming. Go out there and live and make truth for yourself.
And make life for yourself, in other words.
Exactly. There is no purpose to your life. What do you mean that you are born to be this? No, you are lazy.
So God define your life, God define your purpose.
God define your purpose and stop living as though there is this guardian God up there that's watching you and has given you a purpose of life. You see, so now that's now denouncing the and the familiar structures which exist in an attempt to find something that is solid to me. You know, so I would say, as we maybe head towards the conclusion, because I feel like I've said so much, how do you find meaning to your own life? I would say take the advice from the existentialist, and only at their starting point, denounce all familiar and encompassing traditions. And that way then you are able to stand apart and select. So now you don't follow the existentialist to the end. You say, fine, I'm going to strip myself of all that I know. However, I am not going to say that none of the things which I've known are all false. I'm not going to just falsify everything which I've known, but I'm going to denounce it and stand from a distance and actually think through it, that this is now where rationalism comes in. Because what you will notice in the end is that you need sensual experience, you need sensual experiments, you need reason, and you need your own personal experience.
And you need to analyze through them.
Exactly. So I believe that in order to at least discover meaning for your own life, start at the existentialist point of view. Take Descartes' rational thinking and go back to Francis Bacon empiricism, and that might lead you to the truth. Because I believe that the empiricism and rationalism and existentialism have all elements of truth, just that they are fragmented. It's like they cannot stand by themselves. As a human being, you have reason, and it has its place, but reason alone will lead to futility, and experience alone will lead to futility. Therefore, you need your reason plus your experience. And if you discover that there is Papa God out there, then you might need faith. because not everything will make sense. So in a quest of one looking for meaning in their own life, and I'm speaking from a point where I went on a voyage myself to discover meaning for life. However, I did not know that the starting point was existentialism, but by experience I was an existentialist, because I started by denying all encompassing and firm. I was concerned with the cycle that we discussed. You are born,
you go to crash,
primary school, secondary school, tertiary school, get a job, work, get married, have kids, work, grow old, go out of pension, and die. I was concerned with this cycle of life, and I felt that life has so much to offer than the cycle that everybody is following. There got to be something better out there, and that's the existentialist. There's something better out there than the familiar pathway that everybody takes. And for that reason, I was thrown into the world of unknown. I took a voyage into the world of unknown. And in the world of unknown, I realized that there are some things which I have left in the known world which were not completely in error. And only when I got the jewel from the world of unknown, I was able then to compare with the unknown and the known and see where I can amalgamate something that would make me the person that I am today.
Brandon, it sounds like you're saying, go out there, find the information, be open-minded, doubt each and every one, to it long enough to find the truth of it, and to think and analyze through it.
Exactly. And don't deny your personal experience. Ask yourself exactly, why is it that it's you that's doing that? Why is it that at that point in your life you started asking this question? This is now where your experience comes in. How is it that you've asked about the meaning of life and you just so happen to stumble upon this video that we are making, or you just happen to stumble upon a book that attempts to answer those questions, and you are where you are? You must take everything into perspective. You are reasoning, you are having sensual experience, at the same time you are concerned about your subjective experience. You see? So empiricism has its place, rationalism has its place, and existentialism has its place, but they cannot stand up by themselves. As a method of discovering the truth, you need all of them. And which is why I believe that Newton was inspired somehow, because when he came in, he took the ideas of Francis Bacon, Galileo, and René Descartes, and all the other philosophers that lived before, and extracted what was meaningful, and which made him discover the great truth which became the paradigm for more than 300 years, as it were. So we need to doubt, at least at the back of the mind, with an idea that what we are doubting could be true.
Absolutely. Randani, thank you so much for today. You have thrown some interesting names out there, and I think we just had our existential experience, where now we are at our starting point. And as time goes on, we'll delve deeper into the imperialism and to the rationalism, and we'll unpack the Newton and other fathers of philosophy. But for today, this was awesome. This was amazing. Thank you so much for being on Conversation.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like all is not lost. There is so much information out there, but then if we do take time to have a look at it and let it be progressive and constructive and keep on questioning, because it is only by doubting and questioning and having an open mind that we can reach the truth, and we can actually get to a point to say, do we actually have a meaningful existence? This is Conversation. Thank you so much for being with us.